this is my channel, Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and today I'm bringing you a quick TBR video for the month of July. Now, my first order of business in July, having cleared several other things off of my currently reading shelf, is before I start anything else to finish reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I'm very close to the end of volume 2 of 3 of this book. This is something I've been reading bits and pieces of over the last couple months or so and enjoying a lot. And I would continue to read it at that rate, except that I've got another big massive book that I want to start, and I don't want to have two big massive books ongoing at the same time. The next one that I'm going to pick up this month is Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay, because Katie from Katie Loves to Read is doing a month-long read-along of this book over in a Goodreads group. I'll link her channel and the Goodreads group down below so you can join in. So basically, I want to be reading this slowly over the course of the month of July. Which means I've got to get the other one that I was reading like that done first. And then I came across a readathon on Twitter that I don't think anyone else I know is participating in, but maybe you will want to, and that is the Fairy-A-Thon. I think it's only hosted on Twitter. I don't think it's on any other platforms necessarily. I'll link the Twitter account down below, but basically this is running through the month of July and it's focused on reading fairy tale and summary books. There was like, this is so me, any fairy tale readathon thing, I have to do it, right? So since I found that, I've been mangling up my previously proposed TBR to try to make it work for the challenges for this readathon. There are 6 challenges. I'm gonna be sort of twisting some of them to make them work, but I think I'm gonna try to hit all of them. The first is to read a classic fairy tale. I could just read a classic fairy tale online, but I don't really like read and discuss individual classic fairy tales on this channel in like the short story sense, unless they're part of a collection. So I am planning on reading a novel that can be considered both classic and a fairy tale. And that's The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. Now you may remember this was one of my books on my top 5 want to read SFF list that I haven't gotten to yet. I don't think I've gotten to any of those books yet. And I had said in that video that I was kind of planning on going sort of backwards through some of the books that I have on my TBR in terms of chronology of fantasy history. So I started reading Lord of the Rings, and then I started The Once and Future King, and then I was like, once I finish The Once and Future King, I can read The King of Elfland's Daughter. Which brings us to challenge number 2, which is to read a book that Disney has dramatized. You may be aware that I have not yet finished The Once and Future King. You may also be aware that the first book of The Once and Future King is The Sword in the Stone, and that there is a Disney movie of that. I'll be honest with you, it's not one of my favorite Disney movies. And if you follow me on Goodreads or Twitter, you also know that the first 3 books of The Once and Future King have not been my favorite. But the last book, The Candle in the Wind, is so short. I should be able to get through this really quickly, and then I will be able to discuss and review The Once and Future King, a part of which is the basis for a Disney movie. So I'm stretching it a bit because I won't be reading the part of The Once and Future King upon which that movie was based, but I will be finishing The Once and Future King. The next challenge is to read a book that's set in the summer, and this is one where I'm straying from the fairy tale theme a bit in order to hit one of these challenges with a book that I was already planning on reading. For that, I have the first volume of Lumberjanes. This one is called Beware the Kitten Holy. Why do people never mention the volume titles of graphic novels on BookTube? I think I would have picked this up way sooner if I had known that it was called Beware the Kitten Holy. Anyways, this is a very popular series, and I got this first volume out of the library for the Getting Graphic readathon last month, and I didn't get to it during that readathon, so I still have it out from the library. And it's one of a couple graphic novels that I had out for that and didn't get to that I'm hoping to read before I have to return them. The next challenge is to read a book that you read as a child, and again, this is not going to be a fairy tale book, but it is going to be a book that I failed to get to for a different readathon last month, and that's Chocky by Wyndham. This is a sci-fi book. I don't think I particularly liked it as a kid. I remember very little about it, though. I do expect that I'll probably like it more as an adult, and it's very, very short. The next challenge is a book with green or blue on the cover. Again, I have a book that I kind of have to read this month anyways that I'm already committed to reading, and that is Mama Day by Gloria and Naylor. This is a current read through the 15th for the Into the Forest Goodreads group that I'm a member of. The current topic is magical Shakespeare. I didn't get to Eyes Like Stars last month, which was the YA pick for this theme, but I'm really hoping to read this, the adult pick for the theme, before that read-along period ends halfway through this month. This is, I think, going to be a little more on the literary fiction side of things, but it's supposedly inspired in part by The Tempest, which is why the group is reading that, and also my grounds for including it in the Fairy-A-Thon. And then the sixth and final challenge is to read a book only outside, and this is going to be harder for me than I think the challenge was intended to be because I live in a 4th floor apartment with no balcony, so I don't have any private outdoor space. So in order to do this, I'm going to have to take a book out into public and find an outdoor public space to read my book in. So I'm making no promises that I'll actually succeed, but I have a short book that fits the fairy tale theme for this, and that's The Princess and the Goblin, which is the next classic fantasy that I've been planning to read after I finish The Once and Future King and The King of Elfland's Daughter. So that's a ton of books, but then I have one more because I have a book here that is an arc that has a release date of the 17th of this month, and that's The Reluctant Queen by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the second book in her Queens of Renthia series, the first of which was The Queen of Blood, and I want to get a review of this up soon. I just finished reading another book that was a review copy from NetGalley, and that was My Dearer Than the Sword, a novella by KJ Parker. And because that was a novella, I sort of have to pair it with something else in a double review video, and I think this would be a good pairing for that. Because then if I don't get to this book soon, I have to find something else to pair in a double review with that book. So that's a massive amount of books. And then I have a couple backup books where for some reason I need to pick up something else. I have a few more. The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton was on my TBR a couple months ago, I think for the month of May, and it's the only book from that TBR that I haven't gotten to yet, so it's still sitting around waiting to be read. And then another holdover from a previous TBR is the aforementioned Eyes Like Stars, which I may pick up by the 15th, but if not, it's probably going back to the library unread. So there you have it. I hope you're having a nice day. Let me know if you're planning on reading anything exciting this month. That is all. Bye for now.